Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people on the internet today for Thursday, January 27th, almost February already. So Ryan Pulock, who hasn't played since November 15th for the New York Islanders, and they absolutely miss him on the blue line. He's at morning skate today, not going to play tonight, but he's getting closer. So that's good news that Pulock is getting closer to returning. The Islanders might be the one team in the East I could see putting together a run that might take a shot at the top eight in the East, and that separation is huge. But yeah, the Islanders are the one team that I think, Pollock back, and if they can stay relatively healthy, they might have a chance of coming back. But again, it's only the mights and could be and possibly, right? So we'll see how long Pollock's out for. The New York Post is reporting that Ryan Strome has started extension talks with the New York Rangers. I think with Strome, it's a matter of he gets a lot of points because of who he plays with, but the guys he plays with also get a lot of points by playing with him. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I don't think Strome would put up nearly as many points on most of the other teams in the league, but he has really good chemistry with his line mates and teammates right now. So for the Rangers, I think it's in their best interest to try to find a way to keep him. And of course, the salary cap is always going to be something you have to consider with something like that. But yeah, we'll see what the cap hit would be and what he's looking for, and whether or not the New York Rangers and Strome can come to an agreement on that. I think it would be to the benefit of both parties. Arizona. The reason I'm wearing Arizona, and I thought I'd wear the one that best I think looks like a university logo and looks like a university jersey, because apparently they're in talks to use the 5,000 capacity. So it depends on how you read this. 5,000 seats, or it's 3,200 seats, and then you've got private boxes, which currently they may not be making enough money on. So, and the thing is, for this to work, Alex Mariuello is apparently willing to fork out some serious money to build some practice facilities for his team. They're in talks to use the 5,000 capacity, or 5,000 seat if you want to use that term, because again, I think that's including private suites. It's a venue at Arizona State University for the next 3 to 4 years. That's what I found really eyebrow raising, is 3 to 4 years of playing at an arena where you know you're not going to generate a lot of revenue. So it requires state approval. And the other part of this that's interesting is they are the secondary tenant. Obviously, the ASU Sun Devils are the primary tenant. Their schedule for 2022-2023 is already set in stone. So those dates are already taken. I think it's 24 home dates that are already taken. So the NHL would have to work around those 24 dates, and then whatever else the university might need it for. It's just odd. Yeah, I just find the whole thing odd. They still really want to be in that area and build up interest, but a 5,000 seat capacity. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, because again, the Sun Devils get priority, rightfully so. It's their building, and this kind of shows that Gila River, that relationship's gone, and they're looking for other options. And again, 3 to 4 years, 4 years. The NHLPA is in on this too. Like, if this is going to work and the NHL is going to agree to it, the NHLPA does have a say in it. And I think this is the part that people miss too, is that the relationship between the NHL and the NHLPA has changed from where it was in the 90s when teams were just moving. The NHLPA has a say in things. And so if this really doesn't work, the NHLPA can absolutely have a voice at the table about how it doesn't work. But other owners would have a discussion as well, I would think. Because again, Arizona's going to have to get really creative money-wise to be able to generate the revenues over those 3 to 4 years to cover everything, especially if they're spending money elsewhere too to try to build that new building in Tempe, whether the city allows it or whether the city doesn't, and then they have to go to other land bordering Tempe and build it that way. So a lot of money being invested here. And right now on Twitter, Quebec City is trending in Canada amongst NHL accounts. No idea why that is. It's odd, isn't it? Every time Arizona talks about something, immediately people go, well, Quebec. Well, what about Quebec? Hey, Quebec. Hey, remember Quebec City? Anyways, so there you go. The Arizona Coyotes today, once again, something that's interesting. We'll see if it goes through. I don't know. I mean, if they're playing in a university building again, I think they should just kind of lean into it. Go with university looking jerseys for at least a few games. And I don't think this would be bad as a third anyways. So, we'll see. On to other news. And again, the Arizona stuff always leaves me saying, I guess we'll see how that works. But on to other news. The Ottawa Senators, Drake Batherson out at least 2 months. It is a high ankle sprain, and apparently it's a bad one. It's at least 2 months he's going to be out. So that's got to be frustrating for the Sens and for Batherson, who was having a fantastic year. Nick Holden for the Ottawa Senators has signed a 1-year extension with them for $1.3 million. I think it's interesting that the GMs have started, re-upping guys early, and I think the eye is towards the salary cap. I think the eye is towards next year's salary cap and trying to figure out those hurdles that may present themselves early. Not that Ottawa's going to be anywhere near the cap, but just making sure, okay, so our roster next year. And I think there's more planning ahead going on than usual, in part because of the uncertainty around the salary cap and whether or not it's going to go up. If it's $1 million, what does that do? And all of that fun stuff. Vancouver, who's speaking of a team, and Patrick Alvin's also talked about already the need for some cap flexibility and needing a bit of a cushion, which, yep, I've said that for years. But on Vancouver news, Spencer Martin is starting tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. This is the most action he's ever had in the NHL, and I hope he does his best with it. But Demko has been removed from the protocol list and likely starts on Saturday for Vancouver. So for the Canucks, it's been a tough little stretch here. I do think that it probably changes the picture a bit. There's already talks about who Vancouver might sell at the deadline, what they might get back. So I do think the Canucks are going to end up being sellers at the deadline. The picture in the West, I think, is going to get a lot more clouded as we go along, but I don't think the Canucks are going to be in it. Like, I think there's going to be 4 or 5 teams fighting it out for that last playoff spot. I don't know that Vancouver's going to be in the mix. And if Winnipeg loses against Vancouver tonight, they may be falling out of that mix as well. So there's apparently light at the end of the tunnel if you're Evander Kane, where this NHL investigation may be coming to an end. Whatever happens with that, the Oilers are still seen as the team most likely to sign Kane. There's other teams been tied to him, but there are numerous reports out there today and yesterday that I've seen saying Kane is most likely going to the Edmonton Oilers. And we can have the debate about what that does for them. Does it help? Does it hurt? How much does it help and hurt? We can have that debate over the next forever, because that's how sports works. So Dylan Sakura has been called up by the Colorado Avalanche. I have yet to see any kind of a timeline for how long McKinnon's going to be out. I haven't seen a report for what's going on with him. Again, my speculation, just pure speculation from the amount of blood on the ice last night, probably a broken nose. But there's also the possibility of a concussion, right? So we just don't know what's going on with McKinnon at this stage. I would think they'll tell us probably sooner rather than later. I would think we would know probably by tomorrow what the timeline is for McKinnon. The good news is there's depth there for when McKinnon's out. You've got Kadri and you're good. I have not heard yet either that McKinnon's being replaced at the All-Star game. So if that takes place, then we know that McKinnon's going to be out for a while. But I haven't seen that yet. It could absolutely happen, probably while I'm recording this, right? So a question's been asked. Elliot Friedman doesn't think that Marc-Andre Fleury would accept a trade to the Washington Capitals. The Capitals could very well be looking for reliable goaltending going into a playoff run, because to this stage, Samsonov has not given them the reliable goaltending expected. Vanecek's been the better of the two goaltenders. Remember, Vanecek they got back from Seattle because Seattle signed Grubauer. Otherwise, they wouldn't have Vanecek either. It'd be Phoenix Copley with Samsonov. So I can understand Washington looking at adding a goaltender and why Fleury might be an attractive option. And again, there's a lot of fantasy booking going on out there where you'll see a reporter say, well, what about this guy? Well, what about this guy? Like there's an article that's been on Sportsnet for a couple weeks now about 6 potential options for Edmonton in net, and it's Marc-Andre Fleury that's the thumbnail. Well, I think it all just gets into this could happen, might happen, and then the internet grabs it and takes off with it. But I do pose that question to people, because if Fleury really still, identifies as a Pittsburgh Penguin at heart, I don't know that he could go to Washington. I was very surprised when Lundqvist had signed with Washington, to be honest. He didn't end up playing there, but he signed there. He was willing to play there. And so I would be kind of surprised if Fleury went. I think it would be fascinating, especially if we got a first-round matchup between Pittsburgh and Washington, and at one end you got Jarry, and at the other end you got Fleury. That's a storyline that writes itself, and everybody would be excited to watch that, right? So that would be great. but would he take it? And Pittsburgh's been rumored in there too. Pittsburgh, I don't think they've been happy with DeSmith, and so I think that if Pittsburgh could make it work, whether it's a cap issue or whatever it is, I think they'd have to at least look at it. Just imagine Fleury back with the Penguins for one last go-around. I think it would be great. But again, that's me. There's that fantasy bookie I'm talking about. There it is. So we'll see. And then closing things out for today, because I wasn't sure where to place this, so I'm placing it at the end. Jake Virtanen. So there's been a lot of discussions about his conduct off the ice, which is why the Canucks jettisoned him. I don't think that his play on the ice necessarily meant keeping him around either. He was not very good for Vancouver last season or the year before. But for Virtanen, he has officially been charged by Vancouver police, by VPD, for sexual assault that took place in 2017. The investigation started in May of 2021, and so now there's an official charge out there. So he is playing in the KHL. I don't think this compels him to have to come home. I don't think it does. And so, we'll see where this goes. But he has officially been charged, and I really think that's the reason why when the Canucks cut him, there were no other NHL teams that considered it. At least considered it enough to get him on their roster and give it a shot. He didn't even get a tryout. And I think that's what it was. Teams knew this was coming and didn't want that potential nightmare of him finally being charged and wearing their jersey at the time it takes place. So we'll see where this goes. There are some that are surprised the charges actually have taken place. The investigation going on for a long time, and so some had just assumed that it was not going to happen. But there it is. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.